The theme, obviously, of this year's Rouleur Classic is the World Championships. Now, the last time that the Worlds were held on these shores was the south of England, 1982, at Goodwood, and we had a female world champion. You know who's coming anyway, but I'll pretend that we're doing a little bit of a teaser, and I'll announce who it is after we have a look at this.
Hugh, I think this is going to be a memorable moment.
It is just a phenomenal high. You just feel like you're floating on a cloud. With some events, you only get a medal, don't you? But when you win the World Championships, you get your jersey put on first, and then your medal. I just felt over the moon. I know I've got a picture of me, and I've got a big daft grin on my face.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Mandy Jones.
Thank you. Thank you all.
Hello, hello. How are you?
All right, thank you.
Good.
Bit nervous.
Yeah, Mandy actually said backstage she was nervous. I've told her we're all nice here, aren't we?
Like before a race, you know, you get it. I'll be all right now.
Won't last as long. It won't be anywhere near as hard.
Not
worry.
painful, that's fine.
I mean, we're just watching the moment that you crossed the line at Goodwood. You must have relived that moment over and over again in your head, have you?
You do, yeah, you do. And it's really, I mean, I've not got the best memory in the world, but some things really stick in your head, don't they? And I mean, despite the fact that it was 36 years ago, yeah, it really does. It's something indelibly imprinted in your brain, and you just don't ever forget it, yeah.
What do you remember from that day? Do you have a sort of continuous fluid memory as little snapshots of the day?
It's more snapshots of the day, really. I think if somebody actually had recorded exactly what happened in the day and then you said what you thought happened, they probably wouldn't quite match up other than the crossing the line. But yeah, it's snapshots really of what happened and about, you know, when you get away, when you attack, when little things happened. Because of course you don't see the whole race, you only see the bit you're in, don't you? And I was at the front right from the word go. I made sure I stayed up at the front with the main group, because the one thing you don't want to do is get brought off. Which is always a big worry, isn't it? Because there's so much luck involved. You can be as fit as you like, but if you get brought off and you crash, that's it, game over.
So was that the extent of your pre-race tactics then? Get to the front, stay at the front, and then hope for the best?
Well, the pre-race tactics, you know what, I can't even remember if there were any, other than we got a good start on the front line, and yes, it was stay at the front. Because you can't let yourself drift to the back in a big bunch, because, like I say, you're in the wrong place, you can't read the race right, you don't know if an attack goes, you're too far back, you can't do anything about it. So stay up within the first 10, something like that, all the time, and yeah, that was the plan, really, and then get away, because it was a climb, and I was a decent climber, it was, you know, if I can get away on the climb. But that didn't work out, but that's fine. Didn't work out.
It was fine, more than fine.
Yeah.
Of those snapshots of memories, then what is your snapshot of crossing the line, or the last kilometre even?
Oh, the last kilometre. I suppose it's really, I mean, I got away on the last lap, and when I talk about getting away on the climb, I didn't actually get away on the climb, because in a lot of ways people expect you to do that when you're a climber, and I actually got away by catching them unawares as we were turned right at Pillar Green Corner. As it starts to go downhill, glanced back, there was a gap, and I just went. And you just take a chance, which you have to do all the time in a road race, and it worked because they caught them napping. And because I'm a good time trialist, I just put my head down and got going, knowing full well that they were chasing, and you just have to then pray that they're not going to catch you. But the worst bit is, of course, it's in country lanes around Goodwood House, lots of hedges, out of sight, out of mind, that's fine. But then you got on the motor racing circuit. So you come on the motor racing circuit and you do sort of 3/4 of a lap and come out at this end. Well, they can see you. So they can see what they're chasing. And of course, I glance back and I can see the bunch coming, and I just think, I have to just bury myself. That's all I can do. And then once you get out onto the road, the last bit, I remember thinking, it's like riding on Cheshire. Those of you who've ridden on Cheshire will know. I mean, the road surface was awful and rough. And I remember it feeling really heavy on my legs. And it just gradually drags up, and then the climb started. Well, once the climb started, the crowds at the side of the road, being a mainly British crowd, were absolutely fantastic. And the lift they gave me, just by shouting and encouraging me, was absolutely fantastic. And also the odd one going, they're not far behind. Like, you don't want to hear that. They're not far behind, you don't want to hear that. I mean, across the line, I only had 10 seconds in hand, so it really wasn't very much. But, and you sort of almost slightly start to panic, thinking, no, I've got to keep going, and just bury yourself.
And that shift, I guess, from winning to the disappointment earlier in the week must have been incredibly stark. I mean, as you say, you were a very good time trialist, and the time trial maybe would have been your aim.
No, because the time trial wasn't in the World Championships at that time. It was you rode on the track. So I rode at Leicester track the week before and rode the Pursuit because I had the 5K world record. I was national champion. But what I'd done was, because it was in the UK and Leicester's only 2 hours from home, I actually trained behind the motorbike. My last session was on the Wednesday, and I was riding on the Saturday in the Pursuit. Well, of course, we all know about tapering now, don't we? But we don't have a clue about it at the time. I soon learnt.
You learned it works.
I learned it works, yeah. Because, and I did an absolutely appalling ride, and everybody thought I was going to win the World's Pursuit. And I did an appalling ride. I mean, far worse. I think I did a 4-minute 12, and I'd done a 3:58 to win the Nationals. And of course, my disappointment was just awful. I mean, and I remember thinking, well, I say it's over. What do I do now? But then, of course, you gradually come round, and I just went out in the week, potted on my bike, because then we had to go down to Goodwood to ride the Worlds. And the one thing it did, me talking about my nerves a minute ago, the one thing it did was I wasn't nervous because I thought, I've got nothing to lose. I've blown it as far as I'm concerned because I wanted to win the World's Pursuit. And I've blown it. So just have to do my best. All I need to do is do my best, do my very best, and that's all I can ask myself. So consequently, I wasn't particularly nervous, which was a bonus, I think, a massive bonus. Yeah.
Well, that was a bonus, but as you say, because psychologically you'd almost given up in a way. You were so disappointed by losing the earlier world title that you didn't keep training, which was the trend back then.
Yes,
keep
that's right.
Hard.
So then 10 days has passed. So my tapering has worked, unbeknown to me at the time. Because at the time, it was one of the fastest ladies' road races at world level that there had been. It was the fastest one, I think. The distances were nothing like they are now. I mean, now they're more than double the distance. But at the time, you know, whatever it was, just short of 50 mile, I think, at the time, and it was 4 laps of Goodwood. But it was enough. Definitely enough.
Was it a surprise to you then to win it?
Not a surprise so much as, I don't know how you put it, because I'd already had a bronze medal in 1980 at Solanges, which was an incredibly hard World Championships.
When you were just 18?
I was just 18. I'd only ridden one international race, if you could call it an international race. We basically got invited to go and ride races in France, in Bordeaux, and we went out for a week with the British team and rode what was an international race at the time. And then there was nothing for the rest of the year, and then you went to the World Championships. So I had not a lot of experience riding. And of course, we didn't have ladies' road racing in this country. There was very few of them. So you rode with the men, your thirds and juniors, which was the scariest thing in the world, because they're all over the place, and you're thinking, I'm going to get brought off. So you did everything. So I time trialled, road raced, and rode track. And did a lot of training with, at the time, the picture there was Ian Greenhouse, who was my partner at the time and coach. He was a professional bike rider. Well, his coaching was, well, you come out with me, I'm training to ride as a pro, and you're riding with me, and it was as simple as that. So I did the training he did. And, you know, I was doing about 350 mile a week or something like that on the bike. So, yeah.
And, I mean, you paint a picture of women's racing, women's cycling that's so different to how it is now. And certainly in this country, we've got such a tradition now of not just top riders, but champions. I mean, we had Belle Burton before you as world champion, but I think, is it fair to say that when you won the World Championships, that the level of attention you got was something that you couldn't have been prepared for because there hadn't been much that had come before you?
No, they hadn't. And there was no preparation. And it's difficult, isn't it? It's a completely different era. I mean, the fact that it was actually televised, I think, was probably unusual. It was because it was in the UK. you didn't get cycling on the television, which wasn't heard of. And like I say, I was so inexperienced, and there was no preparation in that British cycling because of the way it was set up at the time. They didn't give you any training about dealing with the media, what you said, and so on and so forth. What you said, what you didn't say, more to the point. More to the point, what you don't say. And being a straight-talking northern girl, I tended to just say what was what. So no, you didn't have any of that, and it is. It was a massive culture shock. You know, it was like, oh my God, I've got to go in this room and talk to all these journalists. I mean, when I finished the race, obviously you do the prize presentation, blah, blah, then they take you off for the dope testing. I'm still in luckily it was a dry day. I was still in my bike kit. I've not got changed. Just give me a pair of flip-flops. Right, we're going for interviews now. And you go into this press room, and it's as big as this, full of people all wanting to talk to you.
When before there was nothing. And
no, there was nothing, and I'd never been interviewed for anything. And I was like, right, okay. What do I
That
do?
was your first interview?
That was, you know, all these people from France and Germany and England and all the rest of it, and I've got to speak to these people, still sat in my smelly bike kit.
Because some people would love that. They'd love that level of attention and getting all of that so quickly. That's not to say easily, but certainly very immediately.
Yeah.
How did you deal with that? How was your psychological reaction?
You just deal with it. At the time, it's like riding a bike race. It's like being nervous before, but when you're riding, you're not nervous, and you're very much concentrating on what's happening, and you just deal with it immediately as it is. It's not until afterwards, I think, that you suddenly think about it and go, oh my God, you know what I did. And then I used to worry about, well, what did I say? But you just deal with it at the time. It's just something you deal with, isn't it? And you learn as you go along. Because then the aftermath of that is you then get asked to go and do after-dinner speaking. Mm-hmm. Oh, well, that's another world.
Did you enjoy that?
No.
No, I don't think so.
No.
So why did you do it? Did you feel, I guess, that lack of guidance, did you feel that you had to say yes to everything?
I don't think it's that. I think you almost felt obliged in some ways that these people the public who supported you, and I did have a lot of support from people, you almost felt like, well, this is like payback in a sense. You know, they've asked me to go down, and some of them quite small clubs, do the prize presentation and just say a few words. And they weren't, you didn't have to say loads and loads of things. But the longest one I ever did was at the pedal club. Well, that was half an hour. Well, I needed 2 sherries before I could do that one. That was a bit...
So how did you handle that fame then? How do you think you handled it in retrospect? Was it a good thing in your life, a bad thing?
Oh, no, I think it was a good thing. And it certainly made you very much aware of the wider world and what goes on, and you learnt to deal with it and manage it. But again, still no training. Mm-hmm. You just had to take on board and then watch others and things like that and hope that you did a decent job of it, which I hope I did.
How has women's cycling changed in this country then, since you were the only one in a room this size full of international journalists, to now the level of success that we've had?
I mean, it's massive, isn't it? I mean, the support they get, the fact that so many more women race now, and it's just unbelievable. And I think it's fantastic, absolutely fantastic. And of course, they get the training to deal with the media.
Yeah, always helps.
Yeah, always helps. Yeah, always helps.
You mentioned the incredible support that you received at Goodwood. I mean, I presume you go to races now, do you? Do you stand on the side of the road and watch? Have you been to
occasionally? Yeah.
So you know the level of support that there can be.
Yeah.
What can we expect, do you think, from Yorkshire next year, and the women's race in particular?
Well, I think if you've watched, which I'm sure lots of you have, the video clips from the Tour of Yorkshire, when the Tour de France was here, for instance, and the crowds, I mean, they're just absolutely unbelievable. And women's sport in general, I think, not just cycling, you've got the football and things like that. Women in sport have got a much, much higher profile, and a lot of people are much more aware of it and more supportive of it and love watching it. So I think the crowds at the World Championships will be, well, put it this way, compared to Goodwood, probably about 50 times bigger.
It's interesting you say about, watching all the different kinds of women's sports now, and we often hear, I guess, just how much further we have to go in terms of reaching equality between the two. But from your perspective, coming from where you've come from, do you think sometimes you have to take a step back and appreciate just how far women's sport and certainly women's cycling has actually come to get this far already?
I think the difficulty with that is I can appreciate it because of what I've come from.
Yeah.
But when you're a young person riding now, you don't know any different, so you expect it. And so, of course, there's always that thing that for pushing forward and saying, yes, we need equality. But like you say, if they were to compare the difference, it's just unbelievable, isn't it? You know, what they get now and the support, the amount of races that are on. I mean, there's races on now, and even with the amount of women racing, they still don't support all the events. And yet we would have given our eye teeth the amount of women's racing there are. If, you know, we had maybe half a dozen a year. So even with that, I think there's so much racing on now. They can pick and choose, can't they? And much more than we ever could. And I don't know whether they fully appreciate that, but as I said, that's simply a sign of the times, and they expect to be treated equally, much more so. Well, we expected it, but we didn't get it.
Well, they expect it, and rightly so.
Yes.
How much further do we have to go in the sport to be able to reach that, do you think? Whatever equality looks like.
Yes. I don't know. I think that's a difficult one. I think we'll always be pushing forward. But whether we'll ever actually be on an equal footing, will we? Come on, guys, will we?
There we go. I was going to say silence. That wasn't very positive. Thank you.
Yeah. Should be. Yeah.
So going back then to the World Championships next year, we've had 4 British World Champions. We've had you, Beryl, Nicole Cook, Lizzie Deignan, Armitstead as she was when she won. Will we see another next year?
Absolutely no reason why not. No reason why not at all. Because I think the other thing is, when I...
And in Yorkshire?
Yes, yeah. But the thing is, if Beryl won, I mean, obviously Beryl kept racing, but when she won the World Championships the last time, I won it 15 years later. And of course, again, there was no television, was there? People weren't aware of it unless they were a cyclist. And then the gap between me and the next person, which was Nicole, a bit shorter and a bit shorter. Women's cycling has become much bigger profile. It's covered on television. And I think and more girls riding, so there's more strength in depth. But also they then go, well, I've seen people in my generation do it. You know, Lizzie Deignan only just won it, and I've seen her do that. So I know it's possible for a British woman to do that. So there's absolutely no reason why they can't do it again next year.
And it's that thing as well that Lizzie always says, if you see it, you can be it.
Yes.
And we've seen it.
Absolutely. Yeah, yeah. And if she can do it, I can do it. Which always should be your attitude. Yeah, if she can do it, I can do it.
So what's your involvement in cycling these days then? What are you up to?
Club riding, just club riding really. Nigel.
Do you race at all?
No.
Why not?
I've not raced because I had to stop racing. I was training for Olympics in '92 and my back went. So I was on the Olympic squad going to the Olympics, and I was a bit naffed off, to say that.
Yeah, I'm sure.
Yes. So because ladies cycling wasn't in the Olympics till 1984, the first year when I wasn't riding. And then I had children, and then I started racing again, and then my back went, and it properly went. I mean, I couldn't ride. I literally crawled through the front door, I'd been out my bike one day, and had to go for rehabilitation and so on and so forth, and it's never really been right since. So no, I couldn't race, but I can ride at club level, yeah, do a few miles, organise cycle events. Yeah, so we're involved in that side, but not as a racer, no.
Where does your rainbow jersey hang these days? Where have you got it?
It was in a frame, but unfortunately when we moved, it got smashed. So it's in a plastic bag in a drawer, waiting to be reframed.
Oh, no, Mandy!
I've actually got it with me. Because I did.
That's good, so it's come out of the drawer.
It's actually here, because I didn't know if anybody wants to see it, but I have got
Bring
it.
it in the plastic bag?
Yes, it's in a Sainsbury's bag, love. The medal's framed, if that's any consolation.
That'll do, yes, that's good. Are you going to get a frame sorted?
Yes, when we'll get it framed, yes.
Good. And where will you hang it? Downstairs?
No, we have them at work usually. We've got a couple of jerseys, because Nigel's yellow jersey's at work, and I do have a World's jersey on the wall at work, but it's a skin suit that I had. But yeah, it normally goes and work on we've got a few cycling pictures down there, yeah.
36 years later, we'll get the frame sorted.
Oh, don't tell me that. Scary. Yeah.
Wonderful. It's been lovely to chat to you. Thank you so much indeed. Ladies and gentlemen, Mandy Jones.
Thank you.
Mandy,
thank you.
Thank you.
All right.
I'm sure somebody can help sort her out with a frame.